Hello and welcome back to the Softball America podcast. Tara Henry joined by Jen McIntyre. Jen, I can't wait to get into our ultimate guide to recruiting. We're going to do a series of them. So everybody, please welcome Jen McIntyre back onto the show.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. It's been a little bit since I've been here. So I'm obviously super excited to be here, but mostly I'm really looking forward to talking about recruiting.
Yeah, and when it starts, let's just kind of start from the beginning, because I know we've got so many listeners and so many viewers that are going through the recruiting process right now that have maybe been through it. And so I just really want to start with understanding the recruiting process. Let's start by looking at the importance of early planning and preparing as an athlete. I want to start there, and then we'll go into outlining the different stages of the recruiting process. But early stages, early planning and preparation, what are your biggest takeaways there?
Yeah, I actually work with a bunch of athletes through the recruiting process. I do some consulting with them. It was a big passion of mine after I got out of coaching. And, I tell all of the kids, guys, you cannot start early enough. And when I say that, what I mean is, when by the time that you're a freshman in high school, sophomore in high school, you should be really starting to think about, hey, what are my non-negotiables? What are the things in my college experience that I am not willing to sacrifice? People ask me all the time, well, what do you mean by the non-negotiables? What I'm talking about is, how far away from home do you want to go? What is the culture of the program like? Am I going to have an opportunity to play right away? How far, is it going to be for my family to come and watch me play? One of the biggest things I tell everybody, non-negotiable should always be your academics. You are dead set that I want to major in marine biology, and you're looking at a program that does not have marine biology, they're not going to create that program for you. So you might want to start to look at some other places. But the earlier that you can start, the better. And we can talk a little bit about each year, freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, what to do and how to do to get you guys prepared.
And so when we look at preparing early and going through the process, let's just go through a timeline, because I want to get to what it looks like when players are going to various camps and when that should be. So I think we can just start there by talking about what players should be doing as a freshman in high school, or even an eighth grader, because I know that there are some eighth graders that are currently playing up in the 18 gold level at this point. So eighth grader, freshman year, what should athletes be doing?
Yeah, eighth grade and freshman year, that's where you're really starting to put your feelers out there. Like I said, start to create your list of non-negotiables. What are the things that you think you might want? And I can guarantee you, when you're 12 and 13 years old, that list is going to change by the time that you're 16 or 17. Something is going to be more important to you than it was back then. Think about all the artists that you're listening to. Whoever you listened to 3 or 4 years ago is so old school, you're not listening to them anymore. So what you're going to do in the next 3 years is what's going to matter most. So your freshman or your eighth grade and your freshman year, really start to put together a list of, let's look at our top 10. These are the places where I think that I really would, thrive, not only as a student but as an athlete as well. And so if I can say, hey, these are the top 3, go to your dream school camp. I tell everybody that. Go to your dream school camp. Go early, check it out, see what it's like, and then start to put some other camps and other things on your list that might be a little bit more into your net of what you're really looking for. So then that eighth grade and freshman year, that's what I would do there.
So freshman year, you decided what camps you're going to, you put your dream school on the schedule. Then you're starting to get into your sophomore year. What should athletes be doing as they get into their sophomore year? And we're not going to get into what club teams you're playing for, or this and that, but in terms of an athlete in their sophomore year, what should they be focusing on?
Well, the sophomore year, you guys should really start to be getting, really narrowing down that camp list. Do you need to go to 10 or 15 camps? No. Is it financially feasible for you to go to 10 to 15 camps? No. What used to happen all the time, we used to get so frustrated, is a lot of student athletes, by the time they were, in their junior, senior year, actually getting recruited, they had already spent tens of thousands of dollars between travel ball, between camps, between lessons, all those things. So if you can really start to narrow down, hey, these are the places that I am interested in, these are the places that are going to be looking for someone in my position by the time I get to that class. Those are the places I really want you to start to narrow to. So in that sophomore year, go to 3 or 4 or 5 camps. Check it out. If you are close enough to your school to be able to go to the weekly academies that a lot of these schools put up there, go. I mean, what a benefit to be able to be there on a Monday night with only 3 or 4 or 5 other athletes, getting quality instruction in a series of 4 or 5 weeks. Anytime that you can get in front of the college coaches, that's what you want to do. I tell them all, they can't recruit you if they can't see you. So, how do you get on a team that's going to play close or near the position or the schools that you want to go to?
So you decide your camps and you've been on campus to these various camps, whether you go to academy. What should a player be doing in terms of their social media presence, and when and how should they start contacting schools that they're interested in? When should that happen?
I really love it in their freshman year. The college coaches cannot reply to you until you're a junior. However, they are getting your emails. And so when I work with some of my athletes, I tell them, hey, let's get some emails together, once a month, put together a generic email that just in the body of the email, it states who you are, the position you play, the class that you're in. That should go in the subject line right away because they're getting thousands of emails. And then in that body, also include a couple video clips so that they can see very quickly, hey, is this someone that is going to catch my eye that then I can go see, or I'm going to go invite to camp? That's what we're really looking to do. That's how you're going to attract their attention. But I tell everybody in those emails that you're sending once a month, make sure you put your name, the team you play on, the position, and your graduation year right away. Right away.
So important, and something that is so easy to do. That is
Mhm.
something that is low hanging fruit. You can easily do it, and makes it easier for coaches to stay in order and keep it organized. So you've contacted coaches, you sent out your emails, you've crafted your emails. Now you're going to camps. Now you're looking at visiting schools. What is your advice to players when when they're visiting schools, and what questions should these prospective athletes, ask these programs once they're on campus?
Well, and as you know, with the change in the recruiting rule a couple of years ago, you can't have a student athlete on your campus meet with a college coach in a recruiting environment until after September 1 of their junior year. And so, in that time, you've already done a lot of your research. Like, these are the schools that I'm interested in. They have been following me. I've noticed that they've been in the stands at games in the summer or come to a couple high school games if they're lucky enough to do that. And so you're like, hey, I already know you. By the time you get on their campus, you should know a lot about them. By the time that they're looking at you and they're offering you a visit to come to campus, they're not as worried about what, they're worried about who. They know what you can do. They know that you can swing, they know that you can throw, they know that you can pitch, but they want to know who they're getting. And so that's the biggest part when you come to camps. Make sure that that you're not someone that's, picking on another camper, or as much as I say these things and you think it's a little bit, gosh, why do you have to say that? I've seen it. 25 years, I've seen it all. That you're not, downplaying another camper. You're helping each other out. You're looking for somebody that's going to be a great teammate and someone that's going to help you win. And so when you're going on a campus and you're asking these coaches questions, don't ask them like, hey, like, you know, what is the dorm like? Is that really going to make your decision? What is the dorm like? I'm going to tell you this, guys. Every school's got dorms. They've all got beds. They've all got sinks. All right. I mean, and if you're making a decision based on that, more power to you. But you're not going to be very happy unless you can find out, hey, what is the culture of the program like? How am I going to be successful? How are they going to help me help them win a national championship? And so ask them unique questions. Ask them that, hey, if your team had to describe you in one word, what would they say? It turns it and it puts it on the college coaches to say, hey, whoa, I never thought of it like that. That's what you're trying to find out too.
So this is getting into that junior year, right? Where we've kind of moved into junior year. So in your junior year, what are athletes? We talked about starting early, communicating early, knowing what your dream school is, and then narrowing it down to what is important to you as an athlete. So then when you get into junior year, what does that process look like, and what should athletes be doing?
Gosh, in that junior year, this is where it gets really exciting and fun. I love this part because everyone thinks that when September 1st hits, it's this giant curtain has been lifted and everyone's going to get all these phone calls and everyone is going to be on campuses within 24 hours. And then within a week, we're all going to commit. And that is, quite frankly, not how it goes. And I tell kids all the time, listen, if everybody's process was the same, we would all announce that on November the 1st, we're all going to commit and say where we're going to school. And that just sounds ridiculous because it doesn't work that way. So, in your junior year, if you get phone calls on September 1, be prepared. And I've worked with actually a really high level travel program. They had me call about 20 of their kids this year and take them through mock phone calls. It was the best. And it was awesome just to have that experience for them to be able to, I tell them all, make your mistakes with me. I've been in that seat. I know what it's like. Let me ask you the questions. Let me lead it. Let me see what you're about. Let me see where you might have some pitfalls. And in that junior year, that's where you really want to get to know who they are, know who it is that I'm going to be working with. Can I see them as a fit in my program? Can I help them help us win?
So that's junior year. And again, we're just kind of going broadly through this process. So let's say it is September 1st and you are scheduling your visits. You've got a few calls on September 1st. What is the strategy behind scheduling visits? Because do you schedule your number one program first that you want to go to, or do you schedule them last if you're lucky enough to have 3 or 4 offers? Because I think there's also a science to that. And I know on the college coaches side as well, how they schedule their recruits is people do it differently. So what do you tell your athletes and how to actually schedule those visits?
Yeah, so this is where it gets really, really kind of like the gamesmanship of it all. This whole recruiting thing is this big game of push and pull and control. And everyone likes to be in control. The recruits like to be in control. The college coaches like to be in control. The parents like to be in control. And the travel ball coaches like to be in control. And so prior to September 1, it's kind of like you feel like the control is a little bit weighted heavier on the college coaches side because they're the ones that are out there and they're watching and they're evaluating and they're trying to look at all the games and tournaments and who might I fit and how am I going to stack up my recruiting board and what does that look like. And then all of a sudden September 1 comes and it's like, all right, we're going to call these guys and we're going to try to line them up and bring them in. And now the recruits, they're the ones that have the control because they're the ones that now say, well, all right, I want to see what my options might be. And I want to know how I'm going to play my cards. And their goal is to lay as many cards on the table as they can and play them as they will. Well, the college coaches have now given up the cards and they don't like that. So now they want to have their cards back. And so it's this unique game. And, every situation is going to be different. Some schools are going to say, hey, we're going to bring our top kids in right away. We want to bring them in the first weekend and we want to say, let's say we're going to make offers and go. That used to be how it was about 2 or 3 years ago. And every year there's a different dynamic. This year, in a broad spectrum, it happened to be that the student athletes wanted to wait and take more trips. It used to be they weren't waiting 4 and 5 and 6 weeks. Well, now they wanted to use their trips. They wanted to go. They wanted to see a bunch of other schools. They wanted to have a chance to get on the campuses. And so the schools, we used to think that a lot of times if you got about 2, 3, 4 weeks away from your visit, that kind of was a little bit further away from the mind in the recruits. You tried to time it up that you thought, hey, they're going to be close to be ready to make a decision. We're going to try to bring them in on this weekend. If you're at a place that's got a large football program around big football games, and so every situation is a little bit different. When I work with the kids, I look at where their options are, and then I try to help steer them in that direction of how to line them up.
Yeah, and it is different. And it is a chess match, I would say,
Mhm.
because different college coaches have different strategies as well. And I did see this year a shift in where athletes that had been on campus weren't just making that decision and knowing where they wanted to go. They actually wanted to take those visits and really meet with the team and meet with the coaches and really take those official visits, which went away for quite some time. And so it is an interesting aspect to where it's kind of back old school where we were all taking 5 trips to check out where you wanted to go to school. So that's junior year. Now let's say, hey, I'm lucky enough to sign and at a D1, D2, D3, wherever you're going. You're lucky enough to find a next place to play after high school. What should an athlete be doing after they've made their decision heading into their senior year?
Well, this is when the work really starts. And this is what I try to tell everybody is, just because you have committed or you have signed, your work is not over. Okay, this is where you put your nose to the grindstone and really get after it. College coaches are looking to see, hey, are your academics still in place? You're not taking, slough off courses in that junior and senior year, that you're still going to be on track to graduate. You're going to still be able to compete in the classroom, and you're still going to be able to compete on the field. Because unlike it was 5 or 6 years ago, we now have this transfer portal. And what that transfer portal does is it entices everybody to continue to work. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm a senior in high school and I've committed someplace and I've signed, and then I decide that, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a couple vacations and I'm not going to go to my lessons anymore. And I'm only going to go to 1 or 2 tournaments and get a little complacent. That transfer portal is sitting right there, that a coach can say, you know what? I'm just going to go get somebody out of the portal that has already had college experience, that I know is competing and is hungry. And so in your senior year, you should be hungrier than you were before you got that first call.
And I think that's really important for athletes to hear because that is when the real work starts. And just because you committed or signed doesn't mean, it's going to be all easy and gravy. Again, that's when you have to start competing, right? Like then you're not only competing in your high school and your club team, but you're going to compete for a spot potentially when you head on into college where players have already been there for a year or 2 or 3 and have that experience under their belt. Well, I think this is really important for us to do, Jen, and hopefully we can do more of these and we can dive into topics. So if there's anybody watching and listening to this, please let us know if you want us, what aspect of this, because this is a very broad and general overview that you want us to dive into. And Jen, I'll let you finish us off, but one piece of advice that you could give an athlete that's going through the process, and even it could be anything, but one piece of advice for an athlete that is going through their recruiting process.
2 words: don't panic. Okay, that's the biggest thing, and I hear it day in, day out, forwards and backwards, up and down, every which way. So and so is committed, but so and so is committed. Listen, everyone's path is different. Everyone's timeline is different. So make sure that you're doing your homework and your research about the programs. Okay, do not keep chasing a program that says, hey, you know what, we're not recruiting any more outfielders. If you're an outfielder, go find a program that is going to be recruiting an outfielder. Okay, so do the homework ahead of time. Get on a team where you're going to play and play in front of the schools that you're interested in. They can't recruit you if they can't see you. So that would be my biggest advice. But I'll tell you what, you guys, send us the questions, send us the ideas for topics. I could talk about recruiting for days. So let us get a little bit more narrow in it so that we can really dive into the details for you.
Absolutely. And if you have any other questions for Jen, obviously you can reach out directly to her. We'll put her information in the show notes if you want to dig even deeper. But again, please let us know what you want us to talk about because there's so much we can go over. And I just wanted to do a really broad overview just to give us an idea of what that schedule looks like. But hopefully we'll get some good suggestions and have this maybe once a month, some recruiting, a podcast, and maybe have people on and go through their experience on what they went through because everybody's experience is different. So I love that advice, not to panic. But Jen, Jen McIntyre, thank you so much for joining me today on the Softball America podcast.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Softball America family. We're looking forward to hearing from you guys.
Love it. Well, Tara Henry for Softball America. We'll see you all soon.